Hello, I'm Captain Scott Larson, Chairman of the Negotiating Committee. For the next hour, Captain Bill Sower and Captain Tom Manning of the Negotiating Committee and First Officer Ken Bender, Chairman of the Retirement and Insurance Committee, will join me to answer your questions regarding the tentative agreement. At the bottom of your screen, you'll find a question box where you can submit questions live to us here in Memphis. The questions will be verified for content and queued by subject. Due to the high level of participation, we may not be able to get to all your questions during the webcast. In this being a live broadcast, you'll see us moving around from time to time as we rotate in various subject matter experts. So please excuse the distractions and we'll get started. Yesterday, we conducted a 3-hour call-in session for our line pilots. Two of the top questions we received concerned 6-week bid periods and Passover pay in the new Section 24. Bill, can you explain what the 6-week bid period is all about?
Scott, I am happy to explain it, and this will be the third time today, but it keeps coming up. Being the former chairman of the fatigue committee, this was all about fatigue. We're conducting several fatigue studies, and what we're finding out is that back-to-back weeks of night flying may not give you a proper level of alertness towards the end of that second week. The problem is the 5-week bid month requires that we build a good portion of the lines with back-to-back weeks of night flying. So we're just positioning ourselves that if the data becomes overwhelming, that 5-week bid periods are not good, that we would go to a 6-week bid period, which would give you the ability to build weeks 1, 3, and 5, 2, 4, and 6. We talked with the company about it. They weren't very receptive on the 6-week bid periods. However, it would be 10 4-week bid periods and 2 6-week bid periods. It's only there for a fatigue contingency. And by the way, it was in the 99 contract, was never used. So in 2006, they removed it. But that's the thought behind the 6-week bid period.
Okay, thanks a lot, Bill. Tom, how about Passover in the new 24? How's that handled?
Okay, thanks, Scott. As everybody knows, the new 24 is the new bid for vacancy section, and we've gotten rid of Passover pay and replaced it with a slot denial payment because we've also gotten the ability to bid for training slots. And so Passover pay, your current Passover pay, if you're getting it today or you're going to get it today, everything stays the same until the new 24 is in place. So once the new 24 is implemented, then if you're on Passover pay, you'll stay on Passover pay until something in the contract would trigger you to get off Passover pay, or you bid to a new airplane. So Passover pay will not change for anybody that's on Passover pay. People are still eligible for Passover pay until we click over to the new system.
And the new system has SDP, slot denial payments.
Yeah, it sure does. We had to get rid of the Passover pay because we wanted to bid for training slots, and you can't have a Passover system if you're bidding for training. So the way it works now is under the new system, you'll get a slot denial payment for it'll mimic a Passover pay, just as if you want to go to training, you bid for a training slot, they deny that training slot, they put someone junior to you, you should have gone there, then you get a slot denial payment. And if you continue to bid training month after month and they continue to deny you your training slot, then you'll get a slot denial payment. And we've also added a couple other slot denial payments right now, if you're going lateral, you're going from a wide body to a wide body, and there is no Passover for that. Mm-hmm. But not in the new system, since it's a seniority-based bid for a training system, then if you're denied going wide body to wide body, that's a lateral, you'll get a one-time payment for that. And again, if you keep bidding every month, you'll get that payment. I think the lateral is $750. And then there's also, since it's seniority-based, if you wanted to go the first week of the month and they didn't let you go the first week, but they sent you the second week, you'd still get some kind of payment. It's a single $750 payment for that denial.
So since it's not a pay rate but a penalty payment, there's no repayment requirements on this?
Yeah, there's no repayment. The only repayment is if you pull yourself out of training without the approval of the VP.
Okay, good.
When do you see this going into effect? You talk about the first bid.
Yeah, I think on the implementation timeline, Section 24 is scheduled to go Phase 4, which is in 2017. It's going to be a while. It has to all get programmed. So I think likely what you'll see is they're going to run another bid after the one. There's a 2-year bid out right now. So after that bid, and then it'll shadow bid the new 24, so everyone can kind of get used to what's going on, and then they'll run a bid under the new system. So it's going to be a while. It's fairly, there's a fair amount of a program that needs to get done to make this happen.
And everybody will know when the new 24 is going to take place, and that bid's going to happen under that.
Yes.
And there'll be a lot of education about what's changed and everything there.
Yes, and we talk about passover, we also need to talk about FEP, because what will happen is once the new 24 goes into place, the pilots who are on FEP will have the opportunity to a one-time window where they can raise their hand and say, yep, I'm done with FEP, there's no repayment, I want to just get out of that obligation, or no, I really want to go to the position that was causing the FEP, and I'll keep my name in the hat, and I still have to meet all those triggers to get that FEP.
Okay. Hopefully, with the time of night here in Memphis that we're doing this webcast, that we've got some of our FDA folks in Hong Kong online, and we've got some FDA questions have come in that we want to talk about. And the first one is, will we get the FDA educational allowance increase for the fall of 2015? As we talked about in bargaining, one of the big complaints we had in the FDAs was the high cost of education. And the current contract had a limit of $5,000 per child, and only 2 children could qualify for the education allowance. In the new TA, we removed the per child limitation, and there's only a family limitation of $15,000 for the family per year for education. And the increase for those families will take place on data signing, so they will get the extra educational benefits on data signing. The next question dealing with Hong Kong is, what will be the Hong Kong housing allowance on the first day of the contract, Tom?
It'll be exactly what it is today.
Okay.
Nothing will change.
And when does the new Hong Kong housing allowance have an impact? We've gone to a new system for Hong Kong.
Yeah, we've gone to a new trigger. It's called the Siri, and the way it'll work is on the data signing, they'll take a baseline look at what that Siri is, and then in the first of the year, they'll take another measure of that, and then if it's within the 5% trigger, it'll move your housing allowance.
Okay. This is a good one. Both in Section 6 and the FDA LOA, we've added a new portion to the move weight allowances, and it's called dim weighting. It's a dimensional weighting system that's in there, and it said, the question is, did we test drive the new weight system for moves to see how many pilots would be harmed? Bill, I think you looked at some of those things.
Yeah, I did. We went over moves to Anchorage over a couple-year period, and everyone met the dimensional weighting requirements. So there really were no outliers there except a couple of management pilots, and that really wasn't my concern.
Yep. And in the dimensional weighting system is industry standard for air shipments. It only affects air shipments.
Correct.
And we bargained a better rate than what is currently used in the industry as standard practice.
That's right.
All right. We've got a ULR question here. Why do we have ULR language in pay when we don't have any ULR flights right now?
Again, back to the fatigue guy. As part of the fatigue risk management system, we agreed to evaluate ultra long range flying, and that's flights with blocks over 16 hours. So currently we don't do any, but you have to petition the FAA to be able to do it. So what we would do is work cooperatively in the fatigue group with the company to develop, let's say they want to go Memphis to Hong Kong, and it's going to block over 16. We would figure out the rest provisions and exactly how that pairing would run, agree to it, our sleep scientists would look at it, then the company would petition the FAA for permission to run it. It would be voluntary on the people who fly the ULR, but if you volunteer, you're expected to wear the actigraph, do the data collection. So that's going to take a number of months to collect enough data to have a true scientific sampling. Then if it works out that that's something we want to do, The data will be reviewed by our sleep scientists again and the companies. There has to be unanimous agreement. Then the company would go to the FAA and get approval for that ULR flying. So it's fairly lengthy process and fairly rigorous.
And we currently don't do anything of that nature now.
15 hours and 25 minutes is the longest block flight I have seen for us.
Now, Tom, you were around when this first came up, and we initially looked at ULR back in the 08-09 timeframe. And one of the things we were trying to do back then, the parameters reached down below 16 hours a block. Can you give us an idea what the thinking of was at that point?
Yeah, Scott, it's a little different. Back then, we were negotiating the 777 pay rate LOA, and what was happening was we had gotten the A380, we had the A380 pay rate, and then they came in. We weren't getting A380s, we were going to get 777s, and our contention was that the 777 was a replacement for the A380, therefore it should pay what the A380 paid. And so we were bargaining pay rates for the 777. The company acknowledged that the A380 would do hard work over 16. They did not want to go to a pay rate on the 777, but they were willing to do a long-range premium at that time. And so when they initially started, they were up around 16 hours. And we said, well, if it's going to be a replacement for pay rate, for the 777 pay rate, we think it needs to reach deeper and touch more people. Unfortunately, that LOA never saw the light of day. 482B came along, and the thing didn't get passed out to the pilots. But that's where the concept of a premium for over 16 came from. No other airline that flies ULR has a ULR premium. They just get paid to go do it on the regular pay rates and international override.
And the premiums, ULR premiums in this TA are $24 an hour, credit hour for captains, and $17 per credit hour for FOs, and it pays for the entire trip.
Yep.
And that's in addition to international override as well.
Yes.
Okay. We've got an implementation question. Says the implementation agreement LOA has several items as TBA, TBD as dates. What does that mean?
Well, the TBA, TBD means that we're not sure when it's going to happen because of the program involved. So like right now for 24, I would guess there's a TBA or a TBD in there because they just don't know where the timeline as far as the software that's going to be needed to, the complexity of that, when we're going to get it. It's going to be within this contract. It's not going to be 10 years down the road.
Right.
My guess is you're looking at a couple of years in some of those. Some are pretty hard to program. So that's what it means.
So what about things like pay and stuff like that, and disruption payments and stuff? Are those going to come in at data? Those come in at data signing.
Right.
They may require a pay log on some of them until the automation can be done, but we're not waiting.
No,
years for that.
all pay, disruptions, anything that triggers pay is data signing. It'll be implemented. The software or whatever they need to make it automatic, maybe in phase 2 or phase 3 or phase 4.
Okay. Bill, here's a question on the number of secondary lines. Is there a limit to the number of secondary lines in a monthly bid pack?
Technically, no, but the way it works is we have to build we build all known flying that we can on regular lines. So that what they're doing every month in the secondary process is they're making a guess as to how much conflict is going to happen out there. And it's pilot behavior dependent. Some months they guess right, some months they don't. I've been 15 from the bottom on secondary lines and gotten all reserve days because guys didn't conflict. It may have been March and whatever was going on, they just decided they would go ahead and not use their vacation. But so there's not a limit, but it's self-limiting in that you only have so many people, there's so many reserve lines, and there are so many regular lines.
Okay. Another scheduling-related question. What do we do for our schedules? What did we accomplish that are science-based? We've talked about science-based rule-making and things. You were on the ARC for a long summer not too long ago.
The lost summer.
And so in this TA, what's is science-based?
We really went down, if you look in Section 12, hours of service, which is where most of this lives, we really went down the science-based route, which is where the FAA is moving as well. So you might as well get in front of it. What you're going to see is there's basically 3 types of pairings that you can collect data on. First one is ultra long range. That was a category 1. And the way the company will probably do that is they'll run similar to SIBA, where you would bid on it. No one can get inversed into it, but you can bid on it, and it would include those ultra long range pairings that they wanted to test. And by bidding into it, you agreed to do the data collection. The second one, and I don't want people to be concerned about this because they'll see, are pairings that comply with either don't comply with the FARs or don't comply with the CBA or don't comply with both. And they say, well, why would you have that? Well, if we suddenly get put into 117, we're going to have a lot of things that don't comply with the FARs anymore. And we want to be able to go out and collect data on that. It's strictly voluntary. Then the third type is pairings that are legal with the FARs and legal with the CBA. Well, there's a lot of legal things that could be done to you that physically you probably couldn't do. So there's some things, we call them edgy pairings. Some people call them junior pairings, but we'd want to study those. And again, that's voluntary. If you get one, they may ask you, hey, would you mind wearing the actigraph so that we can really put some science into this?
Okay. Here's a deadheading question. Did we lose 3 days in lieu of deadhead hotels?
No, we did not. It used to say domestic. Now it says non-intercontinental. And the other one says intercontinental. So if you have deadheads, you have 2 weeks of Barcelona, and you don't take the deadheads because you want to stay in Barcelona, you can have 3 nights. Your deadhead bank applied to 3 nights of a hotel there. If you have an intercontinental trip, you're going from Memphis deadheading to Paris, and you decide to go over early, you can have 3 days in the hotel in Paris in lieu of your deadhead ticket.
And this started out as part of SIBA when SIBA first came out.
Exactly. And it was if you had back-to-back SIBA trips and there was only a week off in between them, you could get 6 days of hotels in lieu of your tickets. So yeah, everyone kept some benefit in this.
Okay. The next one is dealing with international deadheads. When would the 22-hour limit on deadheads become a player? And as pairings are constructed now, layovers we have layovers in the middle of long international deadheads. You know, this is something that we've had a couple questions about. Currently, there is no limit on deadhead duty, and this would only apply, this 22-hour limit that we put in here would only apply on an over 16 duty deadhead that you were on as scheduled, and that deadhead started to slide, that you do have some back-end relief that you can call GOC and say, you need to rebook me on something else, I'm running out of duty time as this is work. That's the only place I see this becoming a factor. The next question, still in Section 8, dealing with the deviation bank, says, or asks, is the rolling 50% deviation bank cumulative? For example, is the rollover just 50% of the month's scheduled bank, or is it the total of the month's bank, or what was rolled over from the prior month? This is something we bargained long and hard for. We weren't able to achieve it in 2006, but we have it in this TA. And this rolling deviation bank is you take your monthly deviation bank, and 50% of what you saved in that month can roll over to the following month and be added to the following month's deviation bank and used for all allowable, expensable deviation expenses. Or you can reach back to the prior month if you had overspent the month prior and fix that. You can also reach back to the prior month, and if you have anything left over, that money would then roll over to the following month. So it does a little bit of both, and it rolls over 50% each month as it adds to that current next month's deviation bank. Whatever's saved in that month, 50% rolls over forward, same, and same until either spend it or run out of it. There's also the hotel cancellation bank system that's now in place. Current contract requires you to cancel hotel rooms if you know you're not going to use them. The company wanted an incentive to have pilots cancel more of them if they know they're not going to use them. So with at least 24 hours notice, you can cancel your hotel room and get $35 domestic and $65 internationally to go toward this bank. And this is a bank that'll show up on your bank screen in VIPS. It's capped at $10,000 and can be used for any allowable deviation expense that you don't otherwise have deviation money for. And that bank does not expire. There's no rollover. It's just a hard $10,000 cap to it. That should work pretty well for some of our pilots that don't use their hotel rooms. So the next one is in scheduling. Why were there no improvements made to the substitution policy?
Well, Scott, the company would love to get rid of sub. In fact, they offered to just pay everybody 150% and it sort of is a PMU deal. The problem with that is you lose trip guarantee. So right now, sub does not work well for them. They would love that you just go on reserve, but we weren't going to have any part of that. So we left sub where it was because we know it's a little bit of a pain for the pilots, but in the end, they retain control and they retain trip guarantee and they have the ability to turn it down.
Yeah, their recovery rate on substitution is fairly low for
Yes.
what they pay.
Especially for one-day trips.
All right. We've got a question about established fares. What if the trip gets dropped? Will the accepted fare or the established fare get bumped? And that's a good question. How the new deadhead fares work is when the pairing's created or revised to include a deadhead, they will create what's called a baseline fare. It's very much like the accepted fare is today. The baseline fare will ride until a pilot gets assigned to the trip, and then the company will then establish the fare. So we have a baseline fare, then an established fare. The established fare is much closer in and will reflect what the corporation can actually buy a ticket for. So if you deviate, you will get the higher of the baseline or the established fare if you deviate prior to the start of the bid month. If you wait and deviate once the bid period starts, you'll get the established fare. If you have a trip that is dropped or for whatever reason the pilot comes off the trip and say it goes back into open time, it will reflect if the fare has been established on the pairing in VIPS. So you'll see that before you pick it up or put in a trade for it or whatever, that you'll know what your bank is that you're working with and established. So they won't reestablish the fare unless a revision is made to it and puts it in a different deadhead on the trip. So what happens if a reserve is assigned to that? The likelihood that a reserve, he can deviate, but he'll have the established fare. If he doesn't deviate, it's whatever the company can buy a ticket for and get him out of base with. So that's how that works. Ken Bender's joined us now, our national R&I chairman and our local R&I chairman. Welcome, Ken.
Thanks, Scott.
We've got some retirement insurance questions for you. So
Excellent.
Let's dive right in. The first question is dealing with the SLB, and it asks is why is the SLB not eligible for all crew members regardless of age?
Well, it is eligible for all crew members who are qualifying at the time of retirement. What does that mean to be qualifying? Well, any pilot on property will be able to get this bonus if they retire at age 60 or later and retire with 12 months of notice given to the company, and that their retirement date is on a December 31st of any given year after their 60th birthday, or the month, any day in the month that they turn 65. So it is for everybody on property.
All right. And do you have to be 60 years old to collect both parts of the retirement notice?
So you need to be 60 years old to collect them at retirement. However, the advance notice chart, that cash chart that's up to $40,000 of cash, that goes down to 54 years of age. But that's as of today, as of the date of signing of the contract. So you could be 54 years old now, qualify on that chart for an amount of money, but you wouldn't receive it until you retire with notice at age 60 or later.
Okay. All right, but you'd enter the chart, that chart, you enter that chart with your age and service on date of signing.
Correct.
Okay. All right, another one. Why was so much money put in the early retirement notification bonus instead of raising the pension cap or changing the multiplier? And the signing bonus will benefit some, where changing the pension would benefit everyone. It's kind of a
Two-part
couple-fold
there. Yeah.
question there.
So on the first part of that, with the notification bonuses, instead of raising the pension cap or the multiplier, the reasons there are putting money into the pension is not just the cost that's involved. There's also financial accounting standard liability that goes on to the books of the corporation that then have to be shown to Wall Street and the public. Those same dollars can be spent in other ways that will give benefit to the pilots. So this was a very strong line in the sand for the company. As you know, we've bargained extensively to try and improve the A plan, and with the difficulties in placing those dollars in the A plan, we were able to more easily put them in the pilots' pockets through the cash charts and the bonuses that are in there. So that's benefit, but just moved into a different area.
Okay, and in our goals in retirement were to improve the A plan and improve the B plan. We made pretty good improvements in the B plan.
Correct.
And elsewhere in retirement, but we were just unsuccessful in raising the cap.
That is correct.
Okay. Another question that came in earlier today, and I think bears asking again for folks that weren't on the earlier webcast. Can you discuss retirement pay on the date of exit? The December 31st thing guys have heard in the retirement seminars and everything. And also the sick leave sell back, the bonus, vacation buyback, and maybe a small example would be beneficial. I know you've got several examples on our website, fdx.alpa.org, that people can look at of various situations. But could you walk through that a little bit?
Sure. And first, I'd like to tell everyone that there is a flow chart being built to make this very complicated subject a lot more easily understood, and we hope to have that out very soon. So for a pilot who retires on December 31st, there is no decrease. All the benefits you would get under the current contract are there. There are additional benefits of the sick leave buyback, which is a maximum of $110,000 benefit. To figure that benefit, you have to do two calculations. One is a pay-based calculation looking back from your retirement date, 24 calendar months, taking into account all your pay, any other pensionable pay things like vacation buyback, the bonus, the signing bonus would be an includable pensionable event here, and you total all those up, you subtract $520,000 from that. That resultant number is divided by half, and that is that piece for the pay. The other piece is based on disability sick account balance upon retirement. You take your final balance, you multiply that out by your final pay rate, and divide that by half. And you take, of those three numbers, the pay number, the DSA number, or $110,000, the lesser of those three is the cash payment you get upon retiring, as long as you give the notice and retire on the qualifying dates. In 2015, for someone retiring at the end of this year, you are capable of, with just 1,000 hours of flying in the previous couple years, getting your vacation buyback and the amount of bonus that you would get, you could, with a full DSA bank, walk out with a $98,000 plus SLB bonus.
On the SLB itself.
Correct.
And then you'd also be playing in the other chart as well.
Correct. The Advance Notice Plus chart is an additional cash bonus that you get as long as you follow the qualifying steps there of up to $40,000. And that's based on, as you've said earlier, age on date of signing and your years of service on date of signing. And as long as you retire at age 60 or later with 12 months of notice on a December 31st or the day you return 60, a day of the month that you turn 65, you'll get that bonus as well. So that'll be an additional up to $40,000 cash.
What about people who are going to turn 65 next year? Clearly, they can't give the 12 months notice.
You're correct. So what was built into this was a understanding that for those that cannot give 12 months of notice, if you retire in the month that you turn 65, any day in that month, you will be eligible for the full bonuses that are involved in this TA. There are no reductions there. In addition, because we usually advise pilots that if you want to make the most of your vacation buyback, you should retire somewhere towards the end of the year, usually the end of December. Because going to your 65th birthday might take you past that, if normal rules applied, going past that December 31st, you'd be an active pilot and limited to 40% buyback on your vacation. That 40% is being waived for the first 2 years, where pilots who go until age 65 will be able to get their normal buybacks plus that active year that they clicked over from December 31st, they'll be able to get 100% buyback in that. So there's an additional amount of money there.
Sounds like a little planning maybe.
It is, and that's
needed.
why we've built the flow chart. It's going to take pilots, I'm going to ask everybody to sit down with that flow chart and trace down through your path, and you'll be able to see how much value is in here for you.
So this is going to kind of push retirements all to the end of the year.
Correct. This is something that we see frequently, that the kind of the pattern that we've seen, the majority of pilots go at age 65, sometime in that month, or they try to go in the latter part of the year to maximize that vacation buyback if they're retiring prior to age 65. So by going in December 31st, they're able to maximize all the benefits that our current contract has, maximize the bonuses that are available in the TA as well.
I can see that as a scheduling guy, that actually is a plus for everybody, and that, we get the spike in flying of peak, and then January, February it falls off. We'll actually have guys going out the door coincident with that.
I would agree.
Reduction in block hours.
Yes.
Before we jump over to insurance, I got a question that's come up about normal age to retire.
Yes.
I know that's been a little bit of a discussion, a big concern of everybody's with the rumor mills and things like that. What is it about that letter?
Well, like every pilot that's out there, when we first heard this issue come up, we went on red alert. And as we explored this issue that the company brought to us, we found out that the IRS regulations that pertain to pension plans have specific definitions of what a normal retirement age can be. That normal retirement age has been 60 under our plans, and was something that was not an issue when the regulated age was 60. Since the Fair Treatment for Experienced Pilots Act, FATIPA, changed the regulated age to age 65, demographics have shifted on when people are retiring. They're going later and later in towards 65 for their retirement. And this has created a situation where, under the eyes of the IRS, we might have our pension plans become disqualified if we don't change the defined normal retirement age. That would be very bad. Disqualification of a plan would lead to all of the dollars that FedEx ever put in for you being personally taxable for you. They would be added to your gross income. That would be a significant issue.
That's cats and dogs living together, everything.
It is end of the world time here. So to avoid that, what we did is we talked with the company, and in negotiations we were able to come to language that would protect our pilots and let this administrative paper drill happen if required so as to maintain the qualification of our plans. But it very specifically, very clearly, unambiguously says that you as a pilot will receive full benefits that you would have received had it not been for the amendment. So I want everyone to be very, very clear on this. No pilot will lose benefit from this. This is just something that we have to do to administratively keep the plans qualified. You will be able to retire at 60 with full benefits. If you want to retire early, you will be able to retire early with the same benefits you would have had if the normal retirement age had not changed.
All right, I'm going to ask you to say that again. I can retire at age 60 with no degradation to my retirement.
Correct.
And I can go early down to 55 if I want, just like I can today under the new TA.
Correct.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, let's switch over to insurance for a few questions.
All right.
Is there a cap to the proposed health care premiums, or is it open-ended?
There is. So everything will stay the same in 2016. It's too late in the year for that to be changed. So the first changes to our health plan will occur in 2017. We will shift to a new cost share percentage. And once that happens, year over year, we do have a cap where the premiums that a pilot pays cannot go up more than 10% from the previous year.
All right. So currently we have two plans in our lineup for most of our pilots. We have some international plans and others, but the plans most everybody's familiar with is the buy-up and the base plan.
Yes.
Those are intact, just like they are today, going into plan year in calendar year 2016.
Correct.
So in 2017, what's the new lineup look like?
So 2017, the base plan is replaced with two consumer-directed health plans. One's called the purple, one's called the orange. These plans, unlike the buy-up where you pay your monthly rate and the value that is your health care, you either use it or at the end of the year, that value goes away. You didn't use it. With a CDHP plan, that value is given to you upfront in the form of company contributions to your health savings account or health reimbursement arrangement. And with those accounts, you're able to manage your health care throughout the year. If there's any left over at the end of the year, you get to keep that. These are not use it or lose it accounts like our flexible spending accounts are today. And those monies can grow and collect over time. And you can even take them into retirement. They're eligible expenses that the IRS define. You can use them for medical, dental, vision, long-term care insurance. There's a lot of things that you'll be able to use for them. So it's a lot of increased flexibility as well.
I know you and I have talked a lot about healthcare and how much the industry's changed since this was last bargained in 2006. And it shouldn't be any surprise to anybody that healthcare costs have skyrocketed. We have the Affordable Care Act with its excise tax, which we've talked about several times. And we've always stated in every hub turn meeting that you and I have done that the pilots have spoken loud and clear that they don't want their benefit reduced. They like the benefits we have here at FedEx. Did we reduce the benefits in this TA?
No. The buy-up plan stays. It is the richest traditional health plan in ALPA. And we pay one of the lowest cost shares for it in ALPA. That has stayed, and it's still there for anybody who'd like to use it.
And it's in these new CDHPs?
These new CDHPs, the purple is the higher value one, and that is also the richest CDHP in the industry, very likely one of the richest CDHPs in the nation. And the company contributions that go into our CDHPs are in the top 5, 6, 7% of the nation, and we pay the lowest cost share for a negotiated CDHP in ALPA.
And what about our pilots that are TRICARE eligible or going to TRICARE later on in their career? How does this affect them?
Well, when we developed these, current law states that if you have TRICARE or another health plan like Medicare or something like that, if you're disabled, if you have one of those other health plans, you are not eligible for a health savings account. So we added the CDHP with health reimbursement arrangement option for those pilots. And those pilots will get the same amount of purchasing power, and they will be able to, in concert with TRICARE would be a secondary payer, so they would maintain the benefit under the corporate plan and also get the benefit from TRICARE as well.
And who puts money in those HSAs and HRAs?
So the company will put money in to start, and they will put money in for every year that you're in the plan. You are also able to contribute your own money to those. And the money that you contribute to that is tax deductible, regardless of income, and that is something that you can use for your healthcare expenses now, later, for your spouse, for your dependent. There's a lot of flexibility there for the health savings accounts.
So that health savings account's sort of a healthcare IRA.
It does turn into an IRA-like machine when you turn 65. So like we said earlier, you can take this all the way into retirement. The dollars that you have up to 65, you can take out tax-free for any eligible expense. Like we said, medical, dental, vision, a lot of different expenses. Once you turn 65, though, you can also take money out for non-medical expenses. You just pay normal income tax like you would on an IRA.
So I know one concern that I've heard out there about CDHPs is since I have a deductible that may be several $1,000s, am I getting the same discount for services? If I go see the doctor, am I getting the Anthem discounted rate or am I having to pay book rate?
You will get the discounted rate, whether you're going to see a provider, have a procedure or treatment, or get a prescription. You will be getting the discounted rate off of any or all of those things when you go to purchase them.
All right. So let's say for a family of four, Ken, what's your estimate on cost saved, let's say for the buy-up plan by the end of the contract?
Okay, so we have had ALPA's independent health actuary cost out these numbers. These are starting with numbers that the company have given us, and we've projected from there. The beginning of the new cost-sharing arrangement in 2017, benefit for employee and family, the monthly rate would be $407. That's $121 more than what we would otherwise pay under the buy-up, under the current contract. And all the way out 6 years from now, that going up to a projected $596 per month, which is $235 more than we would pay under the escalating premiums that are under the current contract.
All right, thanks, Ken. Bill, let's go back to some scheduling and quality of life questions.
Oh,
that
we love
have.
those.
All right, so this one has to do with real-time trip trading and bid line adjustment automation improvements. How'd that fare for us?
Real-time trip trading is incredibly complex in our system. We crunched a bunch of data the company provided to look at how do we speed this up and how good or bad was trip trading really. And except for the opening night salvo, it's pretty quick. So real-time trip trading, two impediments there. One is substitution, the other one is priority makeup. You can't get your priority if this thing's going real time. So, and we bargained for that priority in the last contract in the contract before 2006. So for those reasons, there's not going to be real-time trip trading. We have some things to speed it up where you can hover over a trip. If you're thinking of putting a trade in, it's going to tell you how many people have already put a trade in for that and whether any of them had PMU. So you would know about the priorities.
That sounds like one of those automation things.
Somewhere on that implementation schedule Tom talked about. But let's talk about some other things we did get with bid line adjustments. You can put in R-day drops now, 0900 the day prior. It used to be 2 days. Your bid line adjustments are not going to be denied for non-currency as long as the show time's 72 hours out. That's going to be important for the 777 guys who are always fighting that landing currency thing. You have the ability to PDO bump trips in any base if you're an MD-11 guy, 76 guy. You have the ability, as I talked about, to see how many people are in the queue. We got contingency bid line adjustments where you go, I've got 2 trips, but I like that sweet trip, but I only want that sweet trip if I can get rid of both of these trips. Or conversely, I've got this trip and I want those 2 sweet trips, but I only want it if I can get both of them. So it's contingent so that you don't have to nakedly drop and then go, oh my God, I didn't get it. Similar footprint trades. This has been something that's been frustrating. I'm in the Baltimore area. Tom's up in Bradley. I see something fall in there that, it's the same footprint, but it's a little bit longer and it's Baltimore and I got Bradley. I want it. Well, currently it looks and said, well, I got a reserve problem on a couple of these days, but the software's not smart enough to go, hey, this is a net neutral or a net good thing for me. So we're going to get that again, along with the implementation guidelines. A trip proffer. This is an awesome thing that you can go in and, okay, really, the manning is really tight in your seat. Not you, the staffing. So is really tight in your seat. So you keep getting denied. And you go, okay, tell you what, I'm going to put this trip out there. Maybe it's got a star next to it, and people know that, hey, Bill is willing to get rid of this trip, and I can pick it up, but he's going to take hours out of my makeup bank. So if it was a 12-hour trip, you'd get my trip, 12 of your makeup hours would go into my makeup bank. Or if I'm really desperate, my daughter's getting married and I got to be off, maybe it has 2 stars out there, and that says, Bill is giving this trip away. If you want it, it's yours, take it.
And you don't need makeup to do that, and you would just take the hit on the pay.
Right, I would take the hit on the pay, I just want that time off. So those are a few of the things that we've gotten that are real improvements to the bid line adjustments.
All right. Let's talk about the SLR LOA, the secondary line replacement LOA. Is that PBS in another name?
Well, I guess people forget there's PBS on the property now. It came on in '99 with our original contract. About 2000, they started using a rudimentary PBS system in the secondary lines. So it exists out there now. It was very high on the survey to fix the secondary line system because it doesn't work very well for us. It's actually the worst of all worlds. You have a pilot puts in a list of preferences that a non-pilot interprets and weights and puts into a first generation PBS software that doesn't give a reasons report. So you never know why you got anything. Yeah, we're looking to improve on that. So one way to improve it is they're going to put a graphic user interface on our existing system. So it takes that resource planner out of it. They do the best job they can, but they're trying to interpret, and every pilot maybe thinks a little differently. It puts you directly in touch with the software so you'll be able to do it. Now, another big improvement we made is we split the window. It used to be the carry-in window and the secondary window were the same as far as your inputs. Well, now there's a period of time where the secondary award, or the CIA awards happen, your carry-in awards happen, and the open time refreshes. Then you can go in there as a secondary person and know that, hey, those 3 trips I wanted that I was going to list as my first priorities and use points against, they're all gone. So I'm not going to put in for those now. That in itself is going to be a big improvement. Then we agreed to go down with a cooperative effort to look at a new software that would do this better, that has better functionality for what we want to do. Our system is fairly unique in the airline industry.
And this is only for secondary lines.
Only secondary lines. And at the end of the day, we're going to write the requirements document with the company. We're going to look at the acceptance testing. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't work for us, we can say no thanks.
Who has
And
that
go
ability
back.
to say no?
The MEC chairman can say no thanks, and we'll go revert back to the existing system that we have. Now, obviously, there's some scratch in there for both of us to get something that works. They don't want to spend the money and end up with no thanks, and we don't want to go back to the old system that, we put a Band-Aid on.
All right. Question about the signing bonus we've got here. It says, does the use of RSA or DSA prior to going out on LTD count as active time for prorating the lump sum bonus? Answer to that is yes, it does. It does count. And let's see, this looks kind of 24-ish. If there is a change in the way the system-wide bid occur, or is there a change? That's under the new 24. And then when a new system bid comes out, can a senior pilot bump a junior pilot from a base without an excess?
Yeah, let's answer the first part first, and then we'll get into the second part. Yeah, in the new 24, there is a difference in how we're going to bid for system bids. Right now, we usually run a vacancy bid or an excess bid, and then when we have a vacancy bid, you have primaries and secondaries. So you don't know. There's no transparency on what the actual manning is going to be or staffing and whether or not you're going to be able to get a seat or not. Under the new system, now we have it's going to be an award or an assignment. So an award is like a vacancy. It's something that you wanted, someplace you wanted to go. It's on your standing bid higher than what you are today. So when the bid comes out, you get awarded that seat. And then the assignment is just like it's like an excess today. So your seat is overmanned. You don't want to leave. They don't want you there anymore. They're going to send you somewhere. It's going to be a seat that you've elected below your current seat, and then you're going to sign there. So those are the differences as far as they run. The other thing is you're going to be able to, in the new system bid, you'll know every seat. You'll know the minimum and maximum staffing levels in that seat and the current staffing level. So you'll get a snapshot, and you know exactly what the manning requirements for that seat are going to be at the beginning and the end of the bid. So say it's a 7-6 left seat 7-6, and it's minimum is 90 and the maximum's 90. So they just need 90 pilots in there, but they have 80. You know they're going to put 10 pilots in there, period. You know exactly who's going to go where.
Okay.
So, and as far as can any senior pilot bump a junior pilot
Right.
out? No. The way it works is if you are assigned out, you have the same rights as today as far as seniority. So if you're in your position's under assignment, meaning you're going to get accessed out, and it comes to you, then you can go to any position that you can go to any position you can hold, just like today, and you can go there. The difference is today they have the bid to relieve, and in the future you have a limited bid to relieve. Not everyone in a seat that's assigned out can go anywhere. It's just the people on the junior ones that want to go somewhere or have to go somewhere. And then we have something else called a stand-in bid, which is if a junior guy is getting assigned out and a senior guy wanted to go there, but he couldn't go there because that seat was closed.
To the new seat.
Right. But now the junior guy has to go there. Well, the senior guy gets to go there because he wanted to go there.
Okay. Next question is dealing with if the TA is voted down, what's to follow? Well, that is a question. What would follow is we'd be in status quo negotiations. We're still in mediation. We would contact the NMB and the mediator, and obviously after some polling and some surveying and meeting with the pilots to see why the TA was voted down, and some decisions would be made and when to re-engage in negotiations. Same thing on the company side. The mediator would contact the company and see what their preferences are on re-engaging in negotiations and mediation, as well as the NMB. I do know that we've had 40 days of mediation since we started this year with the mediator. Pretty aggressive schedule. I would assume that we would not be meeting anytime in the very near future if it was voted down, and it would be up to the NMB as to when they would schedule the next round of mediation with us and the company. You guys have any other thoughts on that?
No, I think that's pretty accurate. It'd probably be a while.
All right, here's a question about Passover pay. Many fellow FO and 7.5 captain instructors are on Passover for a higher seat while they're retained in their current seat for training. How's instructor Passover, Tom, handled in the new 11 and 24?
Well, let's just talk about Passover today. Like we said prior, Passover doesn't go away. So if you're eligible and you're receiving Passover or you're going to trigger Passover today, you will still get it. Once the new 24 comes out, if you're under Passover, you're still going to be under Passover. You have to do something, one of the triggers in the current contract that would end Passover, or you have to bid to a new seat. So say you bid to a new seat under the new 24 system bid and you're an instructor. The way it's going to work is first your manager is going to determine whether or not you can stay. So he's going to say, hey, you're going to say, hey, I want to go to this seat and it's a higher paying seat. He's going to say, okay, you can go ahead and go. Or you can bid wherever you want to go. It's whether or not you're going to stay there and get paid some kind of override or you're going to go fly that seat. So the manager says, no, we need you to stay here. So you bid that seat, you get awarded that seat, and now you're going to get it's called CHIPA, and it is a slot denial payment for instructors. So it's just like the Passover, but you get that CHIPA award.
Okay, and as we transition to the new system and the new 24, you're not going to have Passover and slot denial payments. You'll transition to the new system.
No, you'll have one or the other.
Right.
Right. Correct.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Next question dealing with deadheading. Can you explain the lie flat business option and how it affects first class deadheads? Does that mean now I get a smaller bank because of the company will book business before they had to book discounted first? First off, it's very rare when a company has to, if ever, buy a full fare first class ticket. The flatbed seats, the ones that we did a lot of research on early on, They're the seats that go at least 175 degrees flat, so you can get some rest, hopefully maybe even some sleep in them. They're not the ones that are angled where you end up down on your knees when you wake up after a nap. The company gets to pick the routing. They get to pick the airline that they schedule deadheads on. And they've been consistent in their statements that they don't chase class of service. So we think that was a, excuse me, a good trade, if you were. That was something the company was seeking. As a result of that, we captured higher class of service for all international deadheads that are greater than 2 hours, 30 minutes, where the current book is greater than 5. We also have the rolling deviation bank and the two-look fixed to the accepted fares as well, along with several other things in Section 8. And that was how that transpired. We got an 8 and 24 question here. Bill, you'd like to talk about the 8 and 24 relief that was given to in 12.
Certainly. I think this question is a little more complicated than that, but let me just simplify and we'll go over the 8 and 24 on the day side. That is 8 hours, over 8 hours a block in a 24-hour period scheduled. Currently, the limit in a single duty period is 7 hours and 35 minutes, and that remains unchanged. Remains unchanged. So 735 block is your limit, okay, in a single duty period. But if you were going, let's say, to San Juan, and typically right now that's a 24-hour layover because it's 4 hours a block down, it's 4:09 back. So you turn in and out of it, but you turn different sides of the clock. So what we're trying to do is reduce 24-hour layovers. The company wanted some relief on the day side on this, and we saw where we would both get something we wanted. So what we would do with San Juan is that would become a 12-hour layover for the day flyer and a 36-hour layover for the night flyer. So the day flyer would go, let's say, Memphis to San Juan, 12-hour layover, San Juan to Memphis, and then he would go to Philadelphia, get about a 13-hour layover, and then come back to Memphis. Our current contract captures the supplemental double the block out rules, which actually this pairing would comply with until you got to Philly, and then once you've gone over 8, currently you would have to have 17 hours off. And we went to the domestic rules, except it's not it's an improved domestic rule where your minimum's 10 hours and 15 minutes, operationally reducible to 9:15 before you exceed 8 and 24. Then it's 13, reducible to 12. And the other airlines have been doing this for years. On the day side, we saw that it gives us day flying, staying with day flying, eliminate the 24-hour layovers, and night flying, getting a 36-hour layover. What did I miss on that, Tom?
Nothing. I think just it can't touch the critical. I don't know if you said that.
Yeah, and I didn't say that. So it creates kind of a golden pairing or sequence of trips out there that you can never, if they're using this rule, you're scheduled for this rule, you can never touch the critical, and you can't be revised into the critical on your duties. That's 0100 to 0459. So that's a good protection. So if you've gone out there, you've done some hard flying on the day side, they're not going to take you on an all-nighter.
Okay, thanks. Last question that we have for this session is value or cost per pilot of this contract. ALPA's economic and financial analysis team of experts have costed the value in this contract over 6 years at in excess of $1.67 billion. To compare that on a per pilot basis, the value in the contract that American signed in January was roughly $25,000 per year per pilot. The failed Delta TA was roughly $30,000 per year per pilot. ENFA estimates this TA that you have before you now is valued at over $60,000 per year per pilot for FedEx pilots. I want to thank you for coming and joining us on this webcast this evening. We appreciate you taking the time and effort to educate yourself on this tentative agreement. Some great questions that came in. If you need more information on the tentative agreement, please go to fdx.alpa.org webpage. Remember, stay informed and stay engaged.